My boyfriend just moved in with me. Now stuff has started to go missing whilst I'm at work, so I bought a spy camera to find out. My boyfriend of 5 months just moved in with me 3 weeks ago. He had some problems with his apartment, damp walls, and it has to be renovated. As my roommate is currently spending some time abroad, I told him it would be okay if he stayed at my place for 4 to 6 weeks. He'll be able to move back to his own apartment by that time. So, now we've been living together for 3 weeks and things started out great. Jealousy had been a bit of a problem between us because we often go out separately probably once a week, but coming home to the same apartment helped him get over his unjustified jealousy. But there has been one new problem. Now, this may seem petty at first, but I'm really at my wit's end with this one. Ever since he moved in with me, things started disappearing and then reappearing one day later in the same place they were missing from. I'm talking about documents, small household items, and food. And it's not like losing keys and then finding them again somewhere. I specifically look for something in a certain place where it isn't, but is there the next day. For example, I like to take a chocolate bar with me to work in the morning, and for that, I normally have a pack of chocolate bars at home. Shortly after he moved in with me, I woke up to find all the chocolate was gone. I asked him about it. He said he didn't know anything about it. I come home just to find the chocolate bars are in the cupboard again. I ask him. He says he doesn't know anything about it. Maybe you just didn't see them in the morning. We're talking about a large pack with about 12 chocolate bars. How can I not see that? At first, I thought it was maybe some strange kind of humor, but he seems angry when I bring it up, and it's starting to really piss me off, because sometimes it's been items belonging to one of my friends that I wanted to give back to them and then couldn't, or it was certain documents I needed for a certain day. Now, I have absolutely no idea what this is about. I am not crazy. I just don't understand it all. He gets really angry when I talk about it, saying I'm making this up just to cause drama. Why should I? I have no idea what's going on. Any ideas? TLDR. Since my boyfriend of 5 months temporarily moved in with me, objects start to disappear and reappear a day later in the same place. He acts like I'm crazy, and I have no idea what this is about. Relevant information from the comments. They met only 2 months ago, and he quickly showered OP with gifts and gestures. He wanted a relationship very quickly. OP is now being educated on gaslighting when other commenters mention that's what her BF is doing. OP comments that her BF doesn't like it when she spends time with her friends. Update 1. First of all, thank you all very much for your suggestions, advice, support, and concern. I've gotten multiple PMs asking if I was okay, and I really appreciate it. So, back to my situation. After I read all your comments and did some reading on gaslighting, I was really freaked out. Plenty of you told me there were other red flags in our relationship. It got me thinking, and more stuff came to mind that should have worried me a long time ago. Our whole relationship felt pretty rushed from the start. I didn't even want to date, but he showered me with romantic gifts, /gestures, /date ideas, /texts, and I finally gave in. He was pretty upset when I didn't want to say, I love you from the start, when I didn't want him to meet my family right away, when I didn't want to have cuddles without a protection, you don't trust me, and when I didn't want to book an expensive vacation with him. He was very jealous and didn't want me to go out without him, although he went out with his friends all the time. He made me cancel plans to spend time with him and then stood me up. He logged into my Facebook and changed my relationship status one day after we started dating as a surprise. I actually did worry at that, but thought he was just bad at making surprises. As a commenter pointed out, all the stuff that has gone missing had something to do with me leaving the house or meeting friends and family. A gift for my friend, the key to my parents' house, a USB stick I borrowed, documents for an application for a semester abroad, which we had a huge fight about because he didn't want me to go, etc. After I read all about gaslighting, I ordered a nanny cam. Unfortunately, the delivery took 4 days, and after day 1 I already knew I couldn't be with him any longer. I wanted him out of the apartment ASAP and with as little drama as possible. I told him that my roommate had gotten a really interesting job offer and would cut her vacation short and come home in a week, so he had to move out. He was pretty angry, but I told him that there was nothing I could do. I also told him, as some of you suggested, that his landlord had to get him a place to stay and that he should call him. The next day, he told me that he had talked to his landlord and he could move back in his own flat on the following weekend. The renovations had not taken as long as planned. At this point, I doubt the apartment ever had damp walls to begin with, but who knows. In the evening, he asked me if I wanted to move in with him because it works so well, and you don't like your roommate anyway. I never even said that. I told him sure, I would move in with him in June. He was pretty excited about it. While I was waiting for the nanny cam to arrive, There was one incident when something went missing, a book that I had ordered for my dad over Amazon and wanted to bring him the next day. At least that's what I told my BF. Of course, in the morning, the book was gone. I chose to ignore it, and he reacted quite strange to it. Even asked me on my way out if I had taken the book with me. Why on earth would he ask that if he didn't expect a reaction from me? I just asked, "What book?" "The book you wanted to bring your dad." "I don't know what you're talking about." In the evening, the book was on my desk again, of course, and I ignored it again. 2 hours later, he casually walks by my desk and says, "Ah, that's the book I was talking about?" I just said, "Oh, that book." He seemed pretty angry for the rest of the evening. 2 days later, the nanny cam finally arrived. I set it up while he was at the gym and again, when he was there, placed a letter I needed for work on my desk. I wasn't surprised at all when it was gone a few hours later and reappeared the next day. When I finally was alone at home again and could check out the nanny cam evidence, I only saw what I already knew. He took the letter while passing the desk, put it in his gym bag and put it back a few hours later. However, as soon as I saw the evidence, I decided against confronting him. To be honest, I was scared of his reaction and had already decided to break it off as soon as possible. Also, the camera didn't show me his motive, and I figured he probably wouldn't tell me anyway. However, it frustrated me very much that I would probably never know why he did it, and on the last evening before he moved back to his newly renovated apartment, I told him I wanted to watch an old movie called Gaslight. Thanks for the tip, everybody. It really is a great movie. He sat with me through the whole movie, but was quieter than usual while I talked the whole time about how unrealistic the movie was and that he was obviously insane. I actually expected some kind of reaction from him, but he just sat there looking nervous. On Sunday, he took all his stuff back to his apartment. My brother had organized someone to come and change the locks, and as soon as that was done, I wrote my BF a text telling him that it was over. I had no interest in being contacted again, that our breakup was final, and I thought it was very sad that he had to hide my things to keep the relationship interesting. Since then, he called me more or less nonstop, but I haven't picked up and I won't. I know, this isn't the most heroic or exciting ending. I could have confronted him with the video evidence, but instead I cowardly broke up with a text message. However, I really didn't want to confront him and have a dramatic fight. I just wanted it to be over as soon and as smoothly as possible. If there's anything I've learned from this, it's to not rush into a relationship. For the past 7 years, I've jumped from one LTR to the next, and I think it's time to stay single for a while and concentrate on my college classes. For now, I'm going to stay at my brother's for 2 or 3 weeks, and I should probably change my phone number. I'm sorry that I can't give you any insight on why he did it. It may have been kleptomania, prank, or messing with my stuff because something about me frustrated him. I will probably never know. In all the texts he sent me, it only says that he doesn't know what I'm talking about, and he never took my things. TLDR, nanny cam evidence shows that it was indeed my ex-boyfriend who took all my things and put them back later. I got him out of my apartment and broke up with him as soon as he was gone. I don't know why he did it, but I'm pretty sure it has something to do with isolating me from friends and family and keeping me in our apartment and under his control. Update 2. I'd love to give you an overall happy update, but unfortunately, the breakup didn't go as smoothly as I first thought it would. I never picked up when my ex called me and never wrote back to one of his countless messages, but I read most of them and there was a certain shift in his messages after about 4 days when he suddenly went from this: "I love you and miss you so much. I don't know what you think I have done, but I can assure you I didn't do anything wrong. Whoever told you that is a liar. Please give me another chance." To this, "You're such a whiny bitch. No wonder you can't hold up a relationship with anyone. I hate you, and there's no second chance for us no matter how much you wish for that. For your own sake, pray to not ever run into me again." I blocked his number later that same week, but had an overall bad feeling when some strange things happened. Some friends of mine called to ask if I'm okay, and they were all under the impression I had broken up with him because I wanted to concentrate on my mental health. Twice, I came to work and everyone was surprised to see me because someone had called to let them know I wasn't feeling well enough for working. When I asked who that was, they said he told them he was my doctor. Also, my ex wrote to my mom on Facebook. They actually never met in person, pretending to be a concerned friend asking about my well-being after my latest breakdown. It was very easy to clear some of that stuff up, especially with my family, but it was harder to do so at work. After 3 weeks at my brother's, I decided to move back into my own apartment, which was not a good idea. On the second evening, I saw my ex in front of the building, and then I saw him at least every other day, standing on the other side of the street just looking across. After about a week, someone started to ring the bell at 3 a.m. for 5 days straight. Also, 3 times I came home and found a little piece of paper in front of my door with a flame drawn on it. It creeped me out so much that he somehow managed to get into the building. I grew more and more afraid to leave the apartment and finally decided to move back in with my brother and his family. My friend, whom I shared the apartment with and who is currently abroad, didn't take too well to the whole story. She was furious when she heard I changed the locks without telling her, and even more furious when I told her I'd be moving out because that was not what we initially agreed upon. However, I just can't go back there. In hindsight, though, I probably should have involved her more in the process. I did ask her parents if it was okay to change the locks as it is their apartment, but I didn't speak to her about it. I feel really shitty about letting him stay in her apartment in the first place. I also went to the police to get a restraining order. It was a surprise to me how hard it is to get one of those. I needed not only evidence of him harassing me, but also evidence of him threatening my safety. However, after long hours and much patience from my SIL, I got one. The bright side is that I got approved for my semester abroad, which starts in October. To not burden my brother any longer, I will already leave in August and maybe travel around a bit. I'm already in a Facebook group with all the other exchange students that will spend the next semester there, and I think I certainly won't be alone. Smiley face. When I'll come back, I'll be looking for a small apartment on my own. I still don't have Amazon Prime. I'm sorry. I can't thank you all enough for opening my eyes after my first post here. I actually had no idea what was going on, even if I had a feeling that something was off. You guys saved me from a very abusive relationship, and every day, I'm grateful I got out of it soon enough. Update 3. Hey everyone. First of all, thanks again for all the support. Your messages and comments really helped me through this crazy time. I didn't think I'd be posting another update, but things took an unexpected turn. So, remember how I said I got a restraining order against my ex? Well, he managed to break it. About a week after my last update, I was staying at my brother's place, trying to get back to some kind of normalcy, when my brother's wife came home visibly shaken. She had seen my ex lurking around their neighborhood. We called the police, and they said they'd keep an eye out, but there wasn't much they could do unless he directly threatened us. That night, my brother insisted we all stay in the house together. I felt so guilty for bringing this chaos into their lives, but they assured me it wasn't my fault. The next day, I went to the police station to file another report. They told me to keep documenting everything and to stay vigilant. Fast forward to a couple of days later, and something really bizarre happened. I got a package delivered to my brother's house, which was strange because I hadn't ordered anything. The return address was from some random P.O. box, and inside was a single, handwritten note. "You'll never be rid of me." No signature, no name, but I knew it was from my ex. My brother wanted to go confront him, but I convinced him not to. We took the note to the police, who finally seemed to take things more seriously. The police increased patrols around my brother's neighborhood, but my ex still managed to slip through somehow. One night, we heard a noise outside around midnight. My brother grabbed a baseball bat and went out to check, and there he was, standing in the middle of the yard, just staring at the house. My brother yelled at him, and he ran off. We called the police again, and this time, they caught him a few blocks away. He was arrested for violating the restraining order and trespassing. I felt a mix of relief and fear, wondering what would happen next. He was released on bail the next day, but was given strict instructions to stay away from me and my family. With my departure date for the semester abroad coming up, I was on edge, worried about leaving my family behind. I decided to push my travel plans forward and left for Europe 2 weeks early. The change of scenery was a huge relief, and I started to feel like I could finally breathe again. Being away gave me a new perspective. I made friends with other exchange students, explored new cities, and started to find myself again. I even got back into painting, something I hadn't done in years. Life started to feel normal again, or at least a new kind of normal. Then, about a month into my stay abroad, I received an email from a friend back home. Apparently, my ex had shown up at my old apartment, where my friend had finally returned. He claimed he was there to apologize and didn't realize I had moved out. My friend called the police, and he was taken away again. That's where things stand now. I've decided to stay in Europe for as long as I can. My semester abroad has been extended into a full year, and I'm planning to travel even more during breaks. I don't know what the future holds, but for now, I'm just focusing on living in the moment and enjoying this new chapter of my life. Update 4. Hey everyone, it's been a while. I honestly didn't think I'd be back with another update, But life has a funny way of surprising you. Buckle up, because things have gotten even crazier. After extending my semester abroad into a full year, I was finally starting to feel like myself again. I made some amazing friends and traveled to places I'd only ever dreamed of visiting. It was the perfect escape from the chaos back home. But just when I thought I had put it all behind me, my past came knocking literally. About 3 months into my extended stay, I was staying in a small town in Italy with a couple of friends. We had rented a quaint little apartment and were having the time of our lives. One evening, we were sitting on the balcony, enjoying some wine and watching the sunset, when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I went to see who it was. Standing there, with a creepy, almost triumphant smile, was my ex. My heart dropped. How the hell had he found me? I felt a cold wave of fear wash over me. He immediately started talking, saying he had come all this way to apologize, to make things right. My friends, who had no idea about my past with him, stood there confused and worried. I managed to slam the door in his face and lock it, and we called the local police. The police arrived quickly, and after I explained the situation, with the help of one of my friends who spoke better Italian, they escorted him away. I had to file yet another report, and the whole ordeal brought back all the anxiety and fear I had been trying to escape. I couldn't believe he had actually tracked me down across the globe. After that incident, I decided to move again, this time to a more remote location. My friends and I found a small cottage in the countryside, away from the busy tourist spots. We thought it would be safer, and for a while it was. But my peace didn't last long. A couple of weeks later, I started receiving strange, anonymous emails. They were vague at first, but quickly became more personal and threatening. I knew it was him. He was trying to mess with my head again, even from a distance. I blocked every email address he used, but new ones kept popping up. It was like playing a never-ending game of whack-a-mole. Feeling desperate, I reached out to a lawyer in Italy who specialized in international harassment cases. She was incredibly helpful and started the process of getting a more serious legal order against him, one that would hopefully stick no matter where I was in the world. But these things take time, and I was constantly looking over my shoulder, jumping at every unfamiliar face. One night, my friends and I decided to go to a local festival in a nearby town. We needed a break from the tension, and for the first time in weeks, I actually started to relax. We were dancing, laughing, and having a great time. But then, as I turned around, I saw him. He was standing in the crowd, staring at me with that same creepy smile. I panicked and ran, dragging my friends with me. We found a police officer at the festival and told him what was happening. This time, the police took it very seriously. They detained my ex on the spot and took him in for questioning. I spent hours at the police station, explaining everything that had happened over the past few months. The officer I spoke with was incredibly sympathetic and assured me they would do everything they could to keep me safe. My ex was eventually deported back to our home country, and I was granted a restraining order that applied internationally. The relief I felt was overwhelming, but the fear still lingered. I knew he could try to find me again, but at least now I had more legal protections in place. I decided to cut my time in Italy short and move to a completely different country to finish my studies. I won't say where, just to be safe. I've taken every precaution possible: new phone number, new email, even a new name on social media. My friends and family back home are on high alert, and I check in with them regularly.
My 12-year-old cousin is a spoilt brat. She ruined my birthday because she can't stand not being the center of attention. I had enough and freaked out. My 23F aunt, 41F, that I will call Karen, has been married to my uncle, 43M, for a little over a year. She had a daughter, 12F, that I will call Emily, from a previous relationship, and my uncle always treated her like his own daughter, even though he only came into her life when she was 9, because she never really had a father figure growing up. When their relationship got serious, my uncle introduced both of them to our family, and ever since they have been present at most gatherings and family holidays. I never liked Karen, because she was always very demanding and would always force people around her to do what she wanted. She never had any respect for anyone, but that's another story. Just to give some examples, she would always show up late to events or just not come at all. And when I say late, I mean like 45 minutes to an hour late, even when people told her it was important to be on time and never apologized for it. She always asked other people to do things for her, like go get something, go to the shop, or just anything that she didn't want to do, and never took no for an answer. And that's just some of it. She has said multiple times that she expects to be treated like a princess. My family always found her impolite and disrespectful, but we didn't really say anything because my uncle seemed happy with her, so good for him. The real problem, however, was her daughter. I can't begin to explain all the disrespectful and entitled things that she has done, but I will try and list some of them. When she was first introduced to us, I was 20 and would normally sit at the adults' table. She, however, decided that it was unfair that I got to sit with the adults and she didn't, so she demanded that either she could sit with the adults or I came back to the children's table. Just to remind you, she was 10 at the time. Instead of explaining to her that I was an adult and she was a child, and therefore we did not sit at the same table, my aunt told me to go with the children. When I said that I didn't want to, especially because children were between 7 and 14 and I was much older, she said that if I was so immature that I didn't want to switch tables, I didn't deserve to be at the adults' table. Ever since then, she made sure that I was seated with children. Her daughter would always ask me to go play with her, even when I was doing something else or working, and when I said no, she would throw tantrums. Her mother always yelled at me for making a child cry and not being a good cousin, and forced me to go play with her. But when I went to play with her, Emily would only ask me do things for her, like go make her a snack, or dress her dolls for her, and would throw a tantrum if I didn't. She would always steal my stuff, especially my makeup and clothes. When I told her not to, because 1, she didn't ask for permission, and 2, she was too young to use makeup. She once again threw fits, and her mother forced me to be generous. She ruined a lot of my stuff, and when I got mad, my aunt just said that she was just a child. For some reason, she was always very jealous of me. Everything I had, and she demanded I gave it to her. When I got my bachelor's degree, my family threw a party to congratulate me, but she got angry that she didn't have all the attention and a party for her. So my aunt threw the exact same party, at the same place, the next day. Every present I had, she would ask her mom for and eventually get. She would make every event about her, even my birthdays. I tried to let it slide and be patient with her, and I tried to tell myself that she was just a child. But her behavior didn't seem to change as she grew up. If anything, she was becoming even more entitled. My last straw was 2 days ago. We were celebrating my birthday. I was born at the beginning of May, but we waited until June to celebrate to make sure that we would have good weather, as we had planned to have a birthday party in my grandparents' garden. As soon as she arrived, which was approximately 1 hour late, Emily started complaining that we were celebrating my birthday 1 month after the real one. She claimed that if we were doing that, we could celebrate her birthday too, since she didn't really have one because it's close to Christmas. To clarify, her birthday is November 29th, which is still a month before Christmas, and her mother always made a point to throw her a real party and not just group it together with Christmas. Karen would always make a very big deal of it, and we always bought her very nice gifts. But she conveniently forgot about that and complained for about 10 minutes before her mother gave in and asked my grandmother to go buy another cake and candles for Emily, as we would also be celebrating her birthday. Emily then complained that it wouldn't be a real birthday because she had no gifts, but Karen said that people had time to go buy her something, and that if there weren't any gifts for her, we could just share mine, as I had plenty. I was furious. I went into my grandmother's house and asked if she had any cardboard boxes that I could use. I took one and pretended to wrap it as a gift. Inside, I only put one thing, a note saying, "Congratulations on being such a spoiled brat. But don't worry, it's not your fault. Your entitled mother raised you that way. Hope you enjoy your present." Yes, it is immature, but I just had enough. She had ruined all of the most important moments of my life for the past 3 years, and I was so tired of it. When people sang happy birthday to me, Emily and Karen made sure to sing "Happy Birthday, Dear Emily" instead of my name, loudly enough to cover all of the other people there. I was so angry, but I thought she wasn't going to be smiling that way for long. I was right. As soon as she opened my present, she started screaming and throwing a tantrum. When she saw what I had written, her mother started yelling at me, but I was just smiling at her the whole time. She called me many names and immediately left with Emily. My family members did not really react as no one really liked Karen or Emily. However, I have received plenty of texts from my aunt and uncle, and even some from other members of my family saying that I was a huge a-hole for ruining a little girl's birthday. I did not yet reply, because I don't really regret what I did, but I keep thinking that maybe I went too far. Am I the a-hole here? Relevant comments. Original poster on needing to tell her parents and uncle about his wife's behaviors. Original poster. I agree, but the thing is, my uncle, for some reason, really loves Karen, and every time that someone in our family has made a comment about her being rude or disrespectful, she got mad at him, which just makes all of us very sad for him. The reason why my parents and I don't say anything, or at least in front of Karen, is to avoid creating problems for my uncle. Also, most of the things I said happened while my parents weren't there to hear it, and I didn't necessarily tell them everything that Karen and Emily did or say because I did not want to create more drama in the family. Yeah, I agree, but he is very much a non-confrontational person and she is his wife, so he just doesn't say anything. I don't really blame him because, according to my dad, she has threatened him multiple times to leave, and since he earns more than her and she takes care of their house, well, let's just say that a divorce wouldn't be in his favor. So, yeah, I somehow feel bad for him, because he really loves her, and I think he would do anything to stop her from leaving. Yeah, the reason why my parents aren't mentioned is because most of the time when things like that happened, they weren't there, and I didn't always tell them because I didn't want to create any drama. While I am technically an adult, in the family I am still a child, if that makes sense. Karen is the generation above me, so in a way she has that authority. But the main reason why I complied most of the time is because otherwise she would start fights with my uncle about how his family treated her and her child, and I didn't want him to have problems as he is normally very sweet and already has to endure enough living with the both of them. Original poster on stopping inviting her uncle, his wife, and her daughter to the family events. Original poster. Well, my uncle and my dad are very close, and they are both very close to their parents. If we stopped inviting them, my grandparents would be really sad because no matter how annoying his wife is, he is still their son. Plus, he is normally a very nice and sweet guy. She didn't really force people to obey because she wouldn't dare to do that with some people. For example, she knew that some of my dad's cousins would never do what she asked them to do, so she didn't ask them anything. But because I am younger than her, and in her eyes not an adult, she thinks that she has some authority on me. And I don't really like to cause problems, especially within my family, which is why I would obey. Plus, she gets into fights with my uncle when things don't go as she wants, because she says that his family is treating her badly, and because I don't want him to get into any trouble, I usually just take a deep breath and do whatever she asks. Original poster on needing to cut contacts with Karen and Emily. Original poster. Well, I don't usually react that way, and have had no problem cutting people off in the past, but the difference here is that it was my family. I know that some people are able to go NC with family members, but it wasn't that simple for me. My grandparents were raised to believe that no matter what a person does to you, family is family. While I personally don't agree with that, I know that the greatest heartbreak for them is to see their family fighting. I'm not used to letting people treat me badly without saying anything, or trying to please people who don't deserve it, but in that case, I was just trying to preserve peace for my grandparents' sake. In the end, I don't really regret my choice because I didn't really suffer from it since I never let Karen or Emily really get to me, and I got to see my grandparents happy to be with their family, so I don't know. Update number 1. I just got a call from my dad, and he told me multiple things. So I'm going to try and tell you all of them before I forget. First, he told me that my uncle called him right before he called me, and told him that he understood where I was coming from and wasn't blaming me for saying something. But at the same time, he said that I should have known better than to humiliate Emily in front of everyone and ruin what should have been a great moment for her. My dad told him that Emily had been constantly harassing me for years, and that she humiliated herself by trying to steal someone's birthday from them. He also told him that it shouldn't have been a great moment for her, because it shouldn't have been a moment for her at all. My uncle seemed to understand, but my dad told me that he thought that my uncle couldn't say he agreed with me, because otherwise Karen would get mad at him. My uncle also said that it made him sad to have these sorts of conflicts in our family, because he didn't want to not be able to see my dad or my grandparents, and he just wanted his family to be happy. My dad replied that he should be telling that to his wife, because we had always been a happy family with no drama until she came along. My uncle told my dad to ask me to apologize to Karen and Emily so that we can put that in the past, and my dad told him that he would talk to me, but would understand if I didn't want to apologize and would have my back. I told my dad that I wouldn't apologize and that I wanted a real apology from Karen and Emily for how they treated me for years, and that until then, I would ignore them and they wouldn't be invited to any event related to me. My dad also told my uncle that he should really divorce Karen because she treated him and everyone else miserably, and that he didn't even understand why he was with her. But my uncle said that it was complicated, and my dad didn't tell me much about that. According to my uncle, more and more family members have started to send messages to Karen to tell her that her behavior was unacceptable and to basically say everything they had kept to themselves for years. My uncle sort of blames me for it because he says that I started a hate train against Karen, but I told my dad that in my opinion, she started that herself. Anyway, he said that it was really bad because even family members who weren't at my birthday were sending her texts, and although I feel like that might be going a little too far, I understand because no one had said anything for the past 3 years, but at some point, it had to come out. In the end, my uncle asked my dad to ask me to come to his house today or tomorrow to talk to Karen and Emily and try to solve the problem. My dad told me that I didn't have to go if I didn't want to. I told him that I wouldn't go alone because I was tired of being bullied by Karen and Emily, but that I would maybe like to go if my parents came with me. I don't really know if I should. I don't think that they will miraculously realize that they had been a-holes for years, but at the same time, I have a lot more things to say. And I also tell myself that even if Karen will never change, maybe there is hope that Emily unlearns that behavior and becomes a decent adult. I also feel like I have to try and make things better, because I feel like everyone sending texts to Karen is maybe going a little bit too far, and I would like for it to get better. I really don't know. Should I go? Relevant comments. Original poster on what she was hoping to get out from her talks with Karen and Emily. The main thing I wish for is to try to make Emily understand why her behavior is wrong. I know that she is not really a child anymore, but her mother has never bothered to teach her respect, and she is used to always getting what she wants, so she doesn't see a problem with what she did. I know it might not be realistic, but I just want to try to make her understand what the problem is, because I know that her mother won't, and that might be her only chance to become a decent and more respectful adult. I know that she is a real brat, but somehow I feel bad for her, because this behavior is all she knows, and I can't help but feel like it's not her fault, so I really want to give her a chance to become a nice person. Update number 2. So I just got back from seeing Karen, Emily, and my uncle. But before I tell you how it went, here are some things I would like to clarify. A lot of you told me not to go on my last update, because it wouldn't change anything, and they would just ask me to apologize. But even if it wasn't going to change anything, or make them realize how bad their behavior was, at least I could get it off my chest and just stop thinking about it and move on with my life, knowing I said everything I had to say. Also, I had said that I would only go if my dad came with me, if we met in a park instead of their house, if they let me speak without interrupting me, and if they didn't expect an apology from me. I had also clarified that I would leave as soon as one of these conditions wasn't respected, or that I felt uncomfortable. To reply to some of the comments on my last post, I don't blame anyone that hadn't spoken up before, and I don't blame myself for not reacting sooner either. I simply wanted to maintain the peace within my family, mainly for my grandparents' sake, because family is very important to them, and their family fighting is truly heartbreaking for them. I know that I could have and maybe should have said something earlier, but I don't really regret not doing so. Anyway, moving on to the interesting part. So I met them about 1 hour ago in a park, and here's how it went. I had prepared a list of things that I wanted to say, which was basically a list of every time Karen or Emily had behaved like entitled brats. So I told them that and explained in details how disrespectful it was. I managed to keep my calm throughout the entire thing, which I am pretty proud of, and they all had the decency to let me finish without interrupting. So that was a good start. After I had finished, Karen started saying that I was basically complaining for no reason, because some of the things that I had listed were pretty minor and not very important, but since I wanted to tell them everything that had bothered me, I told them about some small and some big problems. Karen then pretended like she only heard me talk about the smaller issues, such as asking me to play with my cousin, Emily wanting to try on my makeup, or some of the small comments they had made about me. I then told her that she knew very well that wasn't the center of the problem, and that if everyone had the same problems with her, then maybe we weren't all just very sensitive, and maybe she was actually the problem. She didn't like that, and just said that this family didn't know how to treat newcomers, to which I didn't reply. At that point, my uncle came in and said something like, "You asked for explanations, and you got explanations. If you didn't want her to tell you what the problem asked, why did you insist on speaking with her?" To Karen. I think she was too shocked to reply and just said, "That's it, we're leaving." Before they left, Emily turned to me and said, "I'm sorry I ruined your stuff and your birthday," and then left with her mother. Considering the fact that I didn't have much hope and my expectations for this conversation weren't very high, I'd say that it went better than I expected. I don't really know if Emily's apology was sincere, but it felt like it, especially since her mother didn't see the problem, so I know she wasn't asked to apologize. Karen didn't realize the problem, but I didn't expect her to, so that's okay. And I'm happy that my uncle said something to Karen, even though that means that he's going to get in trouble. My dad told me that I did well and that now it was over and we could all move on. So yeah, here's the update you were waiting for. Update number 3. I never thought I would be writing another update, but here we are. In my last post, I mentioned that my uncle told Karen that if she didn't want explanations, she shouldn't have come, and I said that he was going to get in trouble at home for saying that. Well, I was right. About an hour ago, my uncle showed up to our house with a suitcase asking my dad if he could sleep at our house. We immediately understood that he had gotten into a fight with Karen. After we told him to come in, he told us what happened, and I'm going to try and tell you what I remember. When they got home after I talked to them, Karen gave my uncle the silent treatment and ignored him for the rest of the day. That doesn't really surprise me, honestly. Considering how manipulative she is, she knew exactly how to make him feel bad and apologize. However, my uncle didn't want to apologize, so he just accepted his punishment. All hell broke loose this afternoon when he overheard Karen telling Emily that it's perfectly okay for her to behave like she did and to demand things from other people. She was basically telling her that it just made her a strong, powerful, and determined woman, and that people got angry because they were scared of that and didn't want her to have power. My uncle just had enough and intervened to say that being disrespectful wasn't being powerful, and that people who were truly powerful knew how to get what they wanted while respecting others. Karen apparently got very mad and started yelling at him for continuously defending his bitch of a niece, or something like that. My uncle then told her that everything that I had said to her were facts, and things she'd really done, and that if that made her uncomfortable and angry, then she should change her behavior and realize she was the problem. She continued to yell and him, so he went for a drive because he was tired of her screaming, and when he came back, she had locked him outside and put a suitcase with some of his stuff in front of the door. So he came to our house. She is currently not replying to him, and he is thinking about contacting a divorce attorney, which he will try to do tomorrow. My grandparents have also tried to call Karen, but she doesn't reply to anyone. I feel kind of bad that I created all of this, but at the same time it finally made him realize what a terrible person she is. So good for him. What makes me the saddest is that, if they divorce, Emily will be left with only her mother to teach her right and wrong and is probably going to end up like her. It makes me sad because I felt like she was starting to realize how disrespectful her behavior had been, and now I'm not sure she will ever change. But anyways, it seems like we are finally getting rid of Karen, so today is a great day for our family. Relevant comments. Original poster on what her uncle needs to do now that he has decided to file for divorce and deal with the aftermath, especially when Karen has kicked him out of the house. Yeah, but the fact that she locked him out when she didn't have a right to do so could play in his favor in case of a divorce, to counter Karen's claims. Also, he said that it wasn't worth his energy and that hopefully she will get what she deserves in court. I honestly understand, because after years of living with her, I don't know if I'd have any energy to fight anymore either. I know in the US it's pretty common to have like a front door and a back door or like multiple entrances, but not where I live, so no, there wasn't one on every door. And I don't know why he didn't break it because I didn't ask, but I'd assume he might not want to break his own door. Also, I don't think that it is possible to break them because it's supposed to protect you and your home, so what's the point if you can easily break it? But I don't think that him not breaking in when Karen locked him out was weak. At some point, you have to know which fights are worth it and which one aren't. There's no point trying to fight with her, So I think that him leaving and handling this legally was the best choice he could make, but we all react differently. So that's just my opinion.
I bought a $5,000 gaming PC when my husband found out. He freaked out and accused me of financial infidelity. We both make $200,000 a year. Husband, 33M, and I, 33F, have been married for 10 years, together since college. Since starting out, we have made financial security a priority and have been able to achieve that, albeit with some good luck along the way. We both have good jobs, paying close to $200K each. Student loans were paid off within a few years. Both went to state schools with some scholarships, so didn't have a lot of debt to begin with. We live in a house I inherited from my grandmother, no mortgage, and don't have any credit card debt. We max out our 401ks and currently have 18 months of expenses in our emergency fund and are still adding to it. Our cars are both paid off and should be good for another 5+ years, and we don't have any credit card debt. We manage our finances in a hybrid manner, joint accounts for bills and savings, and separate accounts for our fun money. We each get a pretty generous monthly allotment. The fun money is strictly for our individual expenses, hobbies, clothes, outings with friends, etc., and not for things like date nights, vacations, or larger joint purchases like household appliances and repairs, which come out of our joint account. We also agreed that if either of us gets any bonuses or has any side hustle income, those will go into our individual fun money accounts unless the funds are needed for a larger expense such as a major home repair. In terms of the fun money, my husband is much more of a spender than I am due to expensive hobbies, in particular golf and collecting sports memorabilia, and he's also more into designer clothes, which is fine. It's his fun money. On the other hand, my hobbies are a lot less expensive: running, working out, reading, baking. In general, I'm more introverted, and a great time for me is tea with a friend at one of our homes, with homemade pastries. I have also been getting back into gaming lately, after setting it aside for much of the past decade while building my career. After realizing I had more than enough in my fun money account, I decided to overhaul my gaming setup and got myself a new PC, desk, and gaming chair, total cost of about $5,000. However, upon hearing about the purchase, my husband is furious. He says he had no idea I had saved so much money and that I should have consulted him before spending $5K. I asked what difference it made if it was my own accrued fun money and not our joint funds, and he insisted that my accumulating this amount without telling him was a form of financial infidelity. He says he lost trust in me and doesn't know what else I might be hiding. He is demanding that I return the items I purchased and deposit most of the funds to our joint account. He wants to make a new rule that fun money accounts can't accumulate more than $2K and that any excess goes back to the joint account. A rule that would obviously favor him as a person who spends most of his allotment each month instead of saving up for anything bigger. I feel like I am being punished for being more of a day-to-day saver than spender. It wouldn't occur to me to demand to know how much my husband has in his fun money account, or to try to micromanage what he spends it on. I wasn't hiding anything deliberately. He never asked about it until after I made the purchases. Still, maybe I should have been more transparent about my plans. So am I the jerk here? Miscellaneous info. Husband and I each have our own office hobby room in the house, so it's not like the gaming setup was going in a space he uses. I don't usually game when my husband is home unless he's already busy doing something else. My biggest block of gaming time is typically when he's off playing golf. Also, I run 40-50 miles a week, so it's not like I am generally sedentary. I can't think of a good reason why he would object to me gaming or having a nice gaming setup in my own space in the house. Update 1. My husband finally calmed down enough to have a conversation with me. As many others who provided comments suggested, it wasn't really about the money, but a window into larger issues in our relationship. Essentially, my husband has been feeling increasingly unhappy with me for a while, for the following reasons. In general, he feels that he's a lot more committed to his career development than I am to mine. It's true that although we currently have about the same income, the ceiling for his field, finance, is a lot higher than the one for mine, tech, software dev. He's currently in an executive training program and I'm decidedly not. He's feeling resentful that he's having to work long hours in a high-pressure environment, while I get to work primarily at home doing something that is fun and fairly easy for me, and I'm not stretching myself to do more. He's concerned that over time these resentments are going to build, and that I'm not going to end up pulling my weight financially if he takes huge leaps in his career and I don't. He remarked that since getting back into gaming a few months ago, I've been putting a bit less effort into cooking. I do nearly all the cooking because I work at home and have an easier schedule. It's true that I have been fixing simpler meals, things like grilled chicken salads or chili with cornbread, instead of elaborate meals with fussier foods and several sides. He has also noticed that I haven't been doing the elaborate table settings I used to, with flowers on the table, fancy placemats, etc. Honestly, I didn't realize he noticed or cared about this, but apparently he does. Acts of service are one of his main love languages, so overall he's feeling a little neglected because of this. He also feels I'm not putting enough effort into my appearance. Not in terms of weight, body, I'm a long-distance runner and slim, but in terms of things like clothes, hair, etc. It's true that I've never paid much attention to these things. Given that I work at home in tech, the standard for appearances is extremely low and I far exceed that. I tend to buy simple, practical clothes at places like Target and Walmart, don't wear much makeup, and keep my hair in a simple ponytail. I do glam up a lot more for date nights and other dressy occasions, but most days he comes home from work to find me in a t-shirt and yoga pants with no makeup, and he wants me to make more of an effort. The bottom line is that because of all these things, he's starting to notice other women. Says he hasn't cheated, he's just noticing other people because he's regularly disappointed in me. In particular, given that he works in finance, there are a good number of very career-oriented type A women who manage to have fantastic bodies, be effortlessly polished and glam, and have more interesting hobbies. He also says he feels horrible about all this because he knows I am a good person and that he's being judgmental. That it's not so much I've changed as that his own goals and expectations have changed in the past couple years. The financial infidelity part came into it because he feels I'm not really investing in myself and our relationship, thus cheating on our future in a sense. He also says he loves me enough to be honest. I do believe he isn't trying to be hurtful. I really had to drag all this out of him. That he doesn't want us to drift apart further. That he doesn't want to be angry and resentful, and he knows he is asking for a lot. I know that many on this sub might say I should just tell him to take a hike and call my lawyer, but we've been married for 10 years, have invested a lot in the relationship, and I want to see if the marriage can be saved. So, a couple things. First, we did make an appointment with a marriage counselor and start next week. Also, I'm going to try to do at least some of the above. I'm not sure about making myself be more professionally ambitious when I'm already happy with my work-life balance, and we're already financially very comfortable, but I can at least try doing the other things. Return to spending more time on cooking and decor, and fix myself up a bit when he's on his way home from work, now that I know they are important to him. I also know that in the end, I may feel like I am just tiptoeing around and contorting myself to please him, but it won't cost me much, certainly much less than a divorce, to try for a month or two, and then see how we both feel. And I know I would always regret it if I didn't try, so maybe not the update that you were expecting or hoping for, but that's where things are. And if folks continue to be interested, I can update further once we have started marriage counseling and once I can feel out how the changes are going. Edit, I need to call it a night, but once again, thank you to everyone for your responses. They were really eye-opening and helped me to see that I do deserve better than the way I am being treated, and that the expectations my husband is laying out for me are unfair and unrealistic, especially as he isn't doing anything at all to make it easier for me to meet them or to show me he appreciates my efforts and everything I do bring to the table. I am indeed conditioned to be very people-pleasing, and that is impacting what I think is reasonable here. I have a lot to think about, such as, what do I really want here? What is going to make me happy, especially if I have to keep making myself smaller, metaphorically speaking, and contorting myself to please my husband? Do I really want to be in a marriage under those conditions? I think I'm really selling myself short if I just agree to most of what he demands. Still going to go to the marriage counseling appointment, but I think I will wait to make any other changes until we can at least get some professional input. Update 2. So the more I thought about it, the more his requests, demands really, were sitting poorly with me. I decided to try a little experiment over the weekend to see what would happen if I tried to meet some of his demands. Not because I actually thought they were reasonable, but because I increasingly had the sense that the goalposts would just keep moving and that I was playing a losing game. So, Saturday morning, I went to the salon for a glow-up. Haircut, fresh highlights, mani-pedi, then went to the farmer's market to pick up fresh flowers for our table and assorted other gourmet ingredients. Saturday is usually our date night out, but I suggested we stay in so I could make us a special dinner, steakhouse style. Lobster bisque, bread basket with several types of rolls, boxed savory muffins made from scratch, crab-stuffed mushrooms, filet mignon, au gratin potatoes, white chocolate mousse topped with raspberries. I wore a lavender, his favorite color, on me, sheath dress and high heels and fully done hair and makeup. For all that I got a lukewarm, thanks, it was tasty, and a kiss on the cheek. Of course, I did all the serving and cleanup. Sunday we usually go out, but he suggested I make us brunch at home. So I made French press coffee, mimosas with fresh squeezed orange juice, Belgian waffles with a bananas Foster topping, eggs scrambled with parmesan and fresh herbs from our garden, roasted fingerling potatoes, and maple glazed bacon. I wore a blue sleeveless sundress, wedge sandals, again did my hair and makeup. Again I got a, thanks, it's good, and no help with serving or cleanup. Afterwards I asked if this is what he had in mind when he critiqued me before. He said that it was a start, but that I was acting very entitled for wanting credit for basic adulting. He then dropped a bomb that he was being so hard on me because he had realized lately I had a lot to make up for due to my being a low-value woman. I asked what on earth he meant by that, and he said it was because I wasn't a virgin when we met. What? Keep in mind we started dating at 21. Neither of us claimed to be virgins or stated that as an expectation. Except for very religious people, neither of us is. I don't think most 21-year-old college students are virgins. I was upfront with him then that I'd had 2 previous partners, my high school boyfriend. We went our separate ways when we went to different colleges in different parts of the country, and another boyfriend I'd had my first year of college. And that's it, both committed relationships and nothing casual. He then went on to say that because of my low value, I was going to need to be making it up to him for the rest of my life, that I didn't deserve monogamy or equal treatment, and that I was lucky that anyone at all wanted to marry me. And that he's connected with someone from work, so if I wanted to keep him, I'd better step up. I told him it didn't sound like there was anything to keep if he no longer loved me, or even liked or respected me. Told him to leave, and he said he would gladly go to his girlfriend's place. I know so many people here insisted he was having an affair, and I just didn't want to see it, that his complaints were really all part of a campaign to distance himself from me. I feel so foolish for just thinking he was going through a stressful time at work, or that he genuinely wanted to work on our marriage. Anyway, I have taken the week off from work to get my head together, have an appointment with a lawyer tomorrow, canceled the marriage counseling appointment, but got a referral to an individual therapist who can do an intake session with me later in the week. He and the girlfriend, apparently, are coming this evening to get more of his clothes and things, so I have to brace myself for that. Also, please be assured I do not think I am low value in any way. I let my husband make me think less of myself on some levels for a short time, but now I truly see it was a him problem. Obviously, we don't share the same goals and values, and he has become someone I don't recognize. I know the divorce won't be fun or easy, but I will be okay. Thank you all for helping me see that I was being played before I wasted too much more time in a marriage that was already over. Update 3. To recap my story, I first posted a couple weeks ago that my husband accused me of financial infidelity after I spent $5,000 of my own fun money allotment on a gaming computer, desk, and chair, even though my spending was within our agreed-upon rules. He subsequently admitted that he wasn't really upset about the gaming setup, but about what he perceived as a lack of professional ambition. I'm a senior software dev and we make the same salary at the moment. Plus, he wanted me to cook more elaborate meals, put more effort into home decor, and dress up more for him. Finally, about a week later, he accused me of being low value due to not being a virgin when we met. At age 21, neither was he, and he never once previously criticized that in our 12 years together, and told me he was having an affair with a younger coworker who had been a virgin. Gross, I know. Then he moved out and in with her. Folks have been asking me this week how things went with him picking up his stuff, meeting with my lawyer, etc., so wanted to share those updates for anyone interested. So, he was supposed to come get his stuff on Tuesday evening, a couple days ago, but told me at the last minute he couldn't because Amy, his girlfriend, wasn't feeling well. Some people called in the comments, but yes, she's pregnant apparently. He told me this on text, so I have proof of the affair in writing now. It's not just his word against mine. Anyway, I didn't want him to keep jerking me around on the schedule for whatever reason, so I told him I'd pack his stuff for him and arrange for movers. I think it's better that way. I really didn't want them in the house. I already had arranged for a friend to come over on Tuesday when he and Amy were supposed to come by, so the two of us spent the evening packing his clothes and other personal effects. The movers came yesterday and got the boxes and the furniture items he wanted. He didn't want much, just the stuff from his home office and his dresser, as apparently Amy's apartment is small. I provided a detailed inventory and photos of everything, which he approved, so he can't say that I broke or otherwise ruined his stuff. After that, yesterday I went to the clinic to get STD tests. Won't have the results for a week or so, but thankfully I haven't had any symptoms, and met with my lawyer, who said I had a good case for grounds of adultery and mental cruelty if I want or need to go that route. At a minimum, it's leverage to get him to settle quickly and quietly. Also lock down all the finances within the parameters provided by the lawyer so that he can't empty our joint funds or take anything that belongs to me, changed account beneficiaries and all that fun stuff. Changed the locks to the house too. I decided to take the advice of some of the commenters, and am getting rid of the bed and other bedroom furniture I shared with him. I'm donating it. Someone is coming this afternoon to haul it all off, and I'm going to completely redecorate the bedroom to my own taste. That will take a bit, staying in one of the guest rooms in the meantime. I'm also taking a spa weekend away, leaving tomorrow morning and back Sunday night, just to get a change of scenery before I have to go back to work next week. And yes, even after buying the gaming setup, I have plenty of fun money left in my account to afford my lawyer's retainer and redoing the bedroom as well as my getaway, with plenty left over. Here's to frugality when it counts. Those are the main updates for the moment. I'm doing better than expected, I think, and realizing more day by day that it really wasn't a good marriage, at least not for the last couple years when he started expecting me to do everything around the house, and all the other emotional labor of running our lives outside of work, with no help and little to no gratitude. Amy sure is going to have her hands full. Update 4. I'm updating again here because a lot of kind people have been checking in with well wishes and to see how I'm holding up. Sorry for not updating sooner, but as soon as I got back from the spa weekend I mentioned in my last update, I dove into working with my attorney on the divorce settlement, and didn't think it wise to put my business on the internet, however anonymously, with the legal issues up in the air. The good news is that we were able to come to an agreement pretty quickly, and everything is now executed, just waiting for the court date, which could take another couple months, but my lawyer says the agreement is airtight. It wasn't quite as favorable as most of you all lovely folks probably would have wanted for me, but I was highly motivated to get it done fast. I did get everything that really mattered to me. First, The house I inherited from my grandmother is 100% mine, along with all the furnishings and other effects in the house. My own retirement accounts and my fund money account are all mine as well. Otherwise, I did have to give him 75% of the other cash assets. Although he wasn't on the title for the house, he did contribute substantially to the large renovation we did, as well as to upkeep since then, and the house appreciated very substantially in the years since we moved in. It's fine as I still have plenty of money, especially as I'm quite frugal most of the time and can rebuild cash savings quickly. Our agreement also states that neither of us has a claim on each other's past, present, or future earnings. So in case something happens and he loses his job before the court date, I won't be liable for any alimony. This is actually overall a very good deal for me and gives me a lot of security. In case anyone is wondering how we got this done so quickly, our state allows divorce on mutual consent grounds, which basically allows for a quick divorce without a legal separation period if the parties come to an agreement about all the finances, assets. Given that Amy is pregnant, my soon-to-be ex, let's call him Joe, yes, like the psychopath in the show You, was also very motivated to not drag this out. Now for the real dirt of this update. Last weekend, shortly after all our papers were signed, Amy reached out to me. She asked if we could meet and talk. Perhaps I should have declined, but I will admit I was curious about the 24-year-old prodigy and, until recently, a virgin person who was Joe's affair partner, so I agreed to meet her for lunch. So, the first thing is, Amy is very pregnant, like third trimester. She confirmed she is due in mid-October, which means the affair has been going on a whole lot longer than Joe let on. Whatever. It's water under the bridge as the divorce is almost final. However, after some polite but chilly pleasantries, she asked me, when am I going to be moving out of the house? Because surely Joe has been patient enough with giving me time to get my life together, and her apartment is small and they are needing space for the baby. What? I told her she must be mistaken as the house is mine, inherited from my grandmother, but asked her, what else has Joe told her about me and our marriage? And lie after lie, Joe's lies, that is, tumbled out of her mouth along with crumbs of the real story. These gems include, well, it was true that she and Joe met at work, but it was about a year ago, when they were both interviewing for the executive training program they are now in. Amy said, though, that they first became friends before getting together romantically. Apparently, Joe told her that he was legally married, but that we had been separated in spirit and living separate lives since 2020. But that he didn't want to kick me out and make me homeless during the pandemic because I didn't make much money and we live in a HCOL. Joe told Amy that we met in our early 20s when he was mentoring me in a GED prep program, that I was a high school dropout who was struggling with addiction, and essentially that he rescued me. Helped me get clean, tutored me for my GED, and had been supporting me since through gradually working on college classes. He told Amy I was working on prepping for an IT career and was currently making $45K as a help desk technician, and that he wanted to make sure I could at least afford a studio apartment. He also told Amy that we had separated because I had relapsed and he couldn't have a meaningful relationship with a drug addict. All this is lies. My entire history of drug use is occasionally sharing a joint in college, maybe 4 or 5 times total, never anything harder. It is true that Amy was a 24-year-old virgin prodigy. She seemed dismayed that Joe had told me that, though. At least the virgin part. Said it wasn't a moral issue, she really was just focused on school and work and didn't make time to date. And that generally guys her age seemed mostly interested in casual hookups, especially the younger finance bro types, and she wasn't interested in that. But that Joe took the time to get to know her and was actually interested in a meaningful relationship. I asked her if the pregnancy was planned. She said no, of course not, but it was a miracle because Joe had a vasectomy, so they took that as a sign that they should keep the baby. No, Joe did not have a vasectomy. As we were planning to be a child-free couple, I suggested it a couple times over the years. He firmly stated he didn't want to alter his body like that, so he left birth control as my responsibility. So, it really does seem that Amy is pretty blameless here. I mean, those of us who have been around the block would likely know not to believe a guy who claims to be separated, but is still legally married and living with his wife. But, without her having any dating relationship experience, I can see where she would have taken him at his word. About everything. After all, I didn't know anything was amiss with Joe until a couple months ago, and I was married to him. Of course Amy didn't want to believe me, and I don't blame her for that either. After all, she's been in a relationship with Joe for close to a year and is 7+ months pregnant with his baby, who is coming soon, ready or not. I couldn't immediately refute everything she said, but showed her a couple things. First, a picture of me in my late teens with my grandmother in front of my house, and also my LinkedIn profile which shows my current job and education. Told her to do what she wanted with the info and to please stay safe and take care of herself, and then said my goodbyes. Yes, it was all very odd and unexpected and surreal. Sorry this is so long, but figured those following my tale would be interested in this turn. I'm not sure if I will update again, maybe in a year or so when I have truly processed everything with lots of therapy and am hopefully on to living my best life. As for Joe and Amy, it's up to them to find whatever their path is. I do hope she wises up and leaves him, but am sadly not confident about that. I'm sure he will be able to spin all this in his favor because that's what he does. but I also can't make it my problem anymore. Final update. Hi everyone. Not sure if anyone remembers, as it's been a few months since my last update, but I originally posted earlier this year about my husband Joe accusing me of financial infidelity because I had spent some of my own fun money savings within our agreed upon personal spending limits on a gaming PC and home office setup, which then devolved into him unfairly accusing me of slacking on my personal appearance, career, and housework. And soon it came out that he'd been having an affair with a coworker, Amy, who had become pregnant. We separated right after that. He moved out and in with her. Last time I updated, we had thankfully quickly agreed on a divorce settlement that allowed me to protect my most important assets, and I had just met with his mistress Amy at her request. At which time it was made clear that he had lied to her about numerous circumstances, such as that our home belonged to him, it did not, I inherited it from my grandmother, that I was an underemployed high school dropout drug addict. I'm not, I have a master's degree and a high-paying tech job, that we'd been separated in spirit for years, also not true. I didn't know anything until he blurted out the news about his affair over the summer, and that he had a vasectomy. He did not, we talked about it, but he decided not to, despite us, him in particular, not wanting kids. I told her the truth and even provided as much evidence as I had on me, but she didn't seem to believe me and went on home to Joe. I know quite a few people have been reaching out for more news, but I wanted to wait until my divorce was finalized to avoid risking any complications, and also just thought it best to let things settle for a bit. The good news is, I'm now divorced. The final decree came through a few weeks ago. It actually all went very smoothly. I'm eternally grateful to live in a mutual consent divorce state that allows divorcing couples to proceed quickly if they can come to an agreement on finances and property. On the Joe-Amy front, after my last post, all was quiet for a couple weeks, until Amy, her due date quickly approaching, reached out again to ask if I'd given any more thought to her offer to pay me 17 KLs to vacate the house quickly so that she and Joe could move in. Again, this is the house I inherited that I own free and clear, but Joe told her he owns it and that he was just giving me time to get my finances together before evicting me. At this point, I decided to package up a lot more evidence of Joe's lies to send on to Amy. I sent her a copy of the deed and property tax records showing the house is in my name only. I sent her copies of my diplomas to prove I am not a high school dropout. I sent her some info on various professional associations I'm involved in and awards I have won to show I actually do have a senior level job and am not underemployed, as well as proof of my income. I sent her copies of all my drug test results for the past 5 years. I have a drug-free workplace and have to test 2 to 3 times a year to show I am not an addict. I sent her time-stamped photos and text exchanges to show that Joe was still having a romantic relationship with me until July this year. Nothing salacious, just photos of us showing G-rated affection, exchanging loving words over text, etc. I even found a text exchange from a couple years ago when we last discussed him potentially getting a vasectomy, with his final decision not to proceed with one. A couple days later, she responded. She believed me. However, in the end, it didn't matter as Joe convinced her he had lied for very good reasons. The way they both tell the story, they met at work and were incredibly drawn to each other in a way that felt inevitable. However, due to Joe being married, he felt that if Amy knew he was, to that point, happily married, she would either turn away from him and miss out on the love of a lifetime, or she would go ahead with an affair but be consumed with guilt. So, to avoid either of these outcomes, and especially to save Amy from guilt, Joe decided to create an alternative narrative in which he was in a marriage that had ended for all intents and purposes years ago, in all ways but legally, because I was an uneducated addict who kept relapsing and couldn't get my life together. That was she could essentially believe he was single. Unfortunately, Amy said she understood and forgave him immediately. With a baby due any day, I suppose I can sort of understand the desire to justify the lies, even thought the reality is horrifying. I suppose it's also not my problem anymore. Amy did have her baby over a month ago, and I guess she and Joe will make whatever life together, or not, is meant to be. As for me, I'm doing very well. I actually got a big promotion at work. Not managing people, which I don't want to do, but will be working on higher profile projects, with a 40% raise, which starts after the new year. The house is really big for just me, so I have a couple roommates now, a friend who is also going through a divorce moved in, as well as a younger, mid-20s cousin who moved to the city for work. We're all having a lot of fun together. I'm not really ready to date yet, still in therapy processing all the marital fallout, but getting there and looking forward to whatever new adventures life has to offer.